You made the move. Or maybe you're about to. Or maybe you're still in it, showing up, performing, delivering, while something quiet in the background keeps saying, this is not it. Either way, something has shifted and you can't unknow it. Here's what nobody tells you. The landing strip is a little rocky once you come down from the high of accomplishment. There are moments of real excitement, real clarity, like, yes, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And then night comes, and the anxiety rolls in, the what ifs, the what am I actually doing? Not because you made the wrong choice, by the way, but because you're standing in the space between who you were and who you're becoming. Done pretending this is enough, done pushing through, done ignoring the thing that keeps pulling at you. That's exactly where this podcast lives. I'm Laura Dionisio, founder of Lead Intact, and I've been exactly where you are. The corporate success that stopped feeling like success, the leap that was equal parts terrifying and necessary, the messy, non-linear process of building something that actually fits and learning to trust yourself through all of it. This is the pivot point. Real conversations about what's actually happening beneath the surface and what it takes to build a life that feels as good as it looks. Not just the wins, the attempts too. Because I'm not here to romanticize the journey. I'm here to show you what it's really like. Let's get into it. And this is an opportunity to get really honest, right? Like in the case of my client, without, again, any shame or blame or guilt, what she realized is she was just like, oh, that version of me prioritizes the gym. And that version of me prioritizes the meals and doesn't just forget to eat lunch and breakfast because she's in a rush, you know, and like takes the time to plan out meals, etc. The thing you built to set you free is the thing that has you trapped. Maybe your coaching business scaled faster than you planned. The clients came, the speaking gigs came, the wait list filled, or maybe you just got the promotion you worked toward for years and you love it and you resent it. Both things at the same time. If you know that feeling, stay with me because today we are talking about why that contradiction exists and what to actually do about it. I've been to what I have found. It is really important to think about the identity piece when it comes to scaling. And ideally, you'd like this to happen beforehand to be prepared, but sometimes opportunity comes. And of course, if you are a highly motivated individual, which you are because you're listening to this podcast, you're going to say yes to it. I've definitely felt that in my career as well, where it's like, I'm not going to say no to this just because I don't feel ready. However, it is vital that you take some time to pause and ask yourself, okay, now that I've ascended really quickly, who do I get to become? Because if you don't do that, what ends up happening is inevitably when you scale really quickly, it comes with more things. Now, of course, there's more money, even more opportunities. It also means there's more responsibilities, more decisions you have to make, more leadership you get to step into. And so if you are just staying as the person that you were that got you there, like, you know that saying, what got you here won't get you there. So say you got there, but you're still the same person that had the same thought patterns, responsibilities, way of being, etc. Inevitably, it's going to leave you to burnout, which is really not what we want, right? Especially when it's either like a career move you've been really working really hard towards, or a business model that you've been really desiring for a long time. And so it's important to get really clear about who the person is. I've seen a lot of approaches to this that are purely tactical. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a good tactical plan, but I'm talking about it goes straight to list your tasks, audit your systems, here's your game plan. And while none of that is wrong, if you skip the identity piece, it's kind of like you're rearranging furniture in the house, but you're not even sure if that furniture still belongs. And so that's why I personally believe very strongly in being clear about the identity piece first before we dive into anything tactical. So I like to think of it as if you were to imagine yourself as a house, like the different aspects of your life. This is the kind of identity work that I like to think about. So imagine each room in the house is representative of how that person, that version of you, takes care of that aspect of their life. Let's take the kitchen, right? How does that version of you approach nutrition and health? Do they make time for it? Is it a priority in their life? For one of my clients that I was talking to about it, before fitness was really important to her, she would go to the gym like at least 3, if not 4 times a week. And when she unexpectedly scaled, started getting opportunities to speak on stages, more corporate clients, etc., she started skipping the gym. And so I started talking about, okay, like I'm not trying to like blame anything here, but just ideally, let's start. How would the version of you who is operating a 7-figure business approach health and nutrition, right? And this is an opportunity to get really honest without any shame, guilt, and really without any excuses. So, with my client, when we got to the kitchen portion, what she said was, this version of me prioritizes the gym, doesn't make any excuses, and puts it in her calendar. And then think about the bedroom. How would the version of you think about self care and rest? Because again, the client that I was referring to, she was hardly sleeping. Like she was sleeping like maybe like 5 to 6 hours a night, which is not how it was before. Something's got to give. And then you think about the bathroom. The version of you who is at this up leveled position in their business and in their career, what have they let go of? What have they released? How do they basically clear themselves of things that aren't theirs? So this could be boundaries, this could be relationships, this could be friendships, this could be professional relationships, this could be spaces that they used to go to if it no longer aligns, so they've just let that go. And then let's go to the living room next. In the area of joy, fun, and play, what does this version of you do? Do they even have room for that? Maybe it's taking a walk in the park. Maybe it's making sure that Friday at 3 p.m. they're done. What do they do for joy and fun? And then for the office, what is actually yours to do? This version of you. And see, when we talk about the identity piece, this is why I like to start here and not just an automatic give me the roles and responsibilities, etc. Is like this version of you, like when you think about you're sitting in your genius, you're doing what you love to do. What are those things that are actually that? What are the tasks that actually help you stay in your zone of genius? Because it's probably not making sure your inbox is down to 0 every day. You could probably have your VA do that or an AI agent of some sort. I'm just laughing because this is like actual conversations I've had with, when I think about it, like multiple clients. It seems like, no, I need to have control of my inbox. Like, no, you really don't. Your calendar, are you really the one who needs to manage your calendar? This is why I like to spend time in the identity piece in the office. What do they actually do? What do they think? How do they feel about it? Okay, so now let's get into the garage. What type of external support does this version of you have? And I'm talking about both at a personal and professional level. Because if you are scaling, you cannot scale by yourself. There comes a point where you cannot be the lone wolf anymore. It just doesn't work. And I can think about like, I was like that for sure when I got an unexpected opportunity to become a lead at a project when I thought I was just going to be an individual contributor. I still had the mindset of I've got to do everything on my own. And what ends up happening is imagine you've got like this beautiful house, right? That's you who scaled, but there's like a bunch of shit. Like in my case in the office, because I felt like all of these things had to be done by me. So think hoarders type thing, right? So that's why it's really important to really think about the identity piece of who you get to become at this level. Because if you think about yourself as a house, you don't want the house to be filled with all your junk, which is basically like these are all your previous ways of thinking, some of the tools that you used to need to have. Like for me, one of the tools I used was like a go-getter. So I just felt like I would do whatever it takes to get it done. Just like when I actually moved in real life, I needed to donate that, right? Like it doesn't serve me anymore in my new house, so to speak. Another way that I like to think about it and that I encourage my clients to think about is if you just go through, you can even, I would recommend doing this for like what you do for a week, but even if you start with what did you do today and you list everything that you have done, right? And then ask yourself a series of questions. Number one, does this actually need to get done? Number two, does this need to get done right now? Number three, does it need to get done by me? And it's kind of a good gauge on whether you need to explore if there's an identity related thing for you to work on. If you answer yes to all three questions for every single thing on your list for the day or for the week. Because if you answer yes, yes, it's mine to do. Yes, it needs to get done right now. And yes, it needs to be done just by me and me alone. Then that tells me that perhaps there's either a lack of support in your life right now, whether that's at a personal or professional level. So that's something to look into, or a lack of trust in the support that you do have. Again, something to look into. Or there is some sort of perfectionism perhaps going on where it's like, if it's not done in the way that you specifically get things done, then it's not valid. And again, that's something to look at. Because when you are going from one position to another, I'll take even like a simple example of if I were to go from individual contributor to a manager, there are certain things as a manager that I no longer have to do that I would have had to do as an individual contributor. So for example, like when I was in corporate, as an individual contributor, I wouldn't have to necessarily go to all of the designer meetings or speak to other team members, let's just say, or even like other team leads necessarily to make sure that efforts are coordinated. Like I wouldn't have to be so in the weeds when it comes to the projects because there are added responsibilities as a manager. I now have to be responsible not just of one project, but in a way, multiple projects to make sure that my teams have enough work for them to do, that have to coordinate with other managers to make sure that resourcing is correct, right? So, can you imagine as a manager if I did all that and was still doing the day to day task that I used to do as an individual contributor? That would be way too much. The same is true when you go from solopreneur, which you can get really good money and be really successful, to like you're talking about you're going to go seven figures. You're going to need more support. You're going to have to let go of some things. And you're going to have to realize that you have to step back. And I'll even call myself out here. When I first started, when Lead and Tech was still just a side business, I took care of everything. I took care of the back end, meaning everything from the scheduling software that my clients would book me through to any newsletters to my social media editing, captions, and I was really good at it. And when I thought about, okay, it's time for me to scale, and I thought about what are some of the things that only I can do, it was not creating an Instagram reel, even though I so love doing that. It was not messing around with what technology is out there and how do I make my systems more efficient, even though, again, I thrive doing that. It's me reaching out to potential clients. It's me putting together live events, right? And so imagine if I did all of the things I used to do and I was all into my VA's business on like, you have to do the marketing exactly this way and you have to edit it exactly that way. And I'm gonna be honest, I was like that at first, but I had to make the identity shift of the Laura who has scaled has let go of all of these details and has let go of the need for things to be organized in the specific way that I wanted it to, because that wasn't the best use of my time. And in both of those examples, if you think about the identity piece of it, let's start with the office piece. The version of me who was the individual contributor, perhaps, or me when I first started out as an entrepreneur, had all sorts of tools in the office. And when I scaled, I had to let go of those tools. I had to basically, let's say, like I had a big filing cabinet and I wasn't responsible for that anymore, right? As an entrepreneur, because I had to learn to trust my external support to handle that for me. I had to create some AI agents to support me in some of the things that I was doing manually. And so you can think of it as I had to redecorate my home in order to become the version of me who has scaled their business. Here's what I want to leave you with. I've heard it said that scaling is just supposed to be hard, that growing pains, quote unquote, are part of the deal. Like you just have to white knuckle it through, and maybe a year or two later, it's going to get easier. I don't believe that. I don't think that difficulty has and that suffering is just what it is. It's telling you that the internal work hasn't caught up to the external shift yet. That's all. And the good news is that's something you can actually do something about. You don't have to accept that this is just how it is. You don't have to accept, well, that's what the great so-and-so's experience has been, therefore it has to be mine. Pause. Not stop. Pause. Long enough to ask who you get to become at this level. Long enough to envision the version of you who holds this with more ease than you currently feel. That person exists. You just haven't met them yet. And if you are scaling right now and everything in this episode resonated, I would love to be a part of that transition with you. Book a free clarity call at www.leadintact.com/free clarity call. The link is in the show notes. And if one of those rooms in the prompt that I just shared stopped you, DM me on Instagram and tell me which one. That's exactly where we start. And with that, I will see you next time. Bye for now. If this episode hits something in you, good. That's not an accident. The discomfort you're feeling isn't a sign that something's wrong with you. It's a sign that you're done. Done living in the done waiting for it to magically feel better. Done being really good at a life that doesn't actually fit you anymore. And if good enough stopped being good enough a long time ago, that's exactly who I work with. I'm Laura Dionisio. I'm a coach for high achievers who are done pretending that checking the boxes is enough and are ready to do something about it. If that's you, let's talk. Book a free clarity call at leadintact.com/booking. We'll figure out together what's actually going on and what your next aligned step looks like. And if you're not quite there yet, that's okay too. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Share this with a friend who needs to hear it. You probably already know exactly who that is. And with that, I'll see you next time.